Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is another tumbler tutorial and I'll be showing you how to marble a tumbler. For this tutorial I use glitter, mica powders, and epoxy dye, and I will link all of the products that I use in the description box below. Before I started this project, I went ahead and spray painted my cup white to give me a base to work with. And now I'll begin the epoxy process. And if you need to know how to epoxy and the safety precautions of epoxy, I have a video for this and I will link the tutorial in the description box. So because we have a separate tutorial for the epoxy, I'll go ahead and speed up this process to save us a little bit of time with this tutorial. When doing a marbling technique, you want to start with doing the epoxy on the cup first. This will allow your epoxy time to start to dry, and that's what you want. If you don't give your epoxy time to dry, you will end up with a swirl technique. So we will give it a little bit of time to settle and cure. Then we will be able to paint on our inks and our dyes without it having a chance to run. And I'll make sure that this layer of epoxy is super thin. After I've applied my epoxy, I'm going to lay out my medicine cups. You want a separate cup for each mica, powder, dye, or glitter that you're going to use. You don't want to mix these together. So keep that in mind when you mix your epoxy at the beginning of this project, because you want your epoxy to remain at the same cure rate, which means that you don't want to mix up a brand new batch of epoxy because it won't mix well with the epoxy that has already started to cure from the beginning of the project. And for each cup I usually fill it about a quarter of the way full. Now I'm going to add my first black dye, and you can see it doesn't take much at all. These dyes are very opaque. And now I'm going to mix up my white. For the marble look, you want to make sure that you have a black dye and a white dye, and then the rest of the project colors are up to you. I want to do purple with this one, so I'm going to do a purple mica powder, a pearl mica powder, and then I'm going to add some colors of glitter. The first glitter that I'm using is Fresh Prince from Peachy Olive Glitters. The second glitter that I'm going to use is Ice Queen from the Glitter Gallery. And then I decided that I want to add more to the project, so I'm going to mix up a little bit more, and it's the same epoxy that I used before. And don't be afraid to mix up too much, because you can pour these into molds later, and I will link those below. You can make magnets, earrings, all kinds of fun things with epoxy molds. Then I decided to use Rome from Backfist Customs and the Shards in Raspberry from Backfist Customs. And now I'll start to mix it together. I'm going to start mixing the lightest to the darkest, and that's because I like to save supplies, and you can wipe off your popsicle stick and mix the next color. And now we're ready to get the colors onto the cup. So I'm going to start with the black dye, and this is what creates the marble look. You're just going to dip your finger into the dye and start to rub a diagonal line across your cup. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't overthink it. The other colors will mix into this and it will end up and not be as you originally started. So don't stress if you don't like the way that it looks, because you can always use your white dye to erase parts of the black or to blend it in. You always have a chance to change the look of these cups. And now I'm going to repeat the same process with the purple mica powder. The order that you go in doesn't necessarily matter. I do like to start with the black for the marble, and then I'll usually layer on my next darkest color. Now I'm going to go with my white dye, and I'll just mix it into the rest of the colors, and this just gives it a sporadic marble look because marble is not perfect, and so this will help it create that imperfect look. You can use your popsicle stick, you can use a paintbrush or your hand, just whatever you feel comfortable with. You'll figure out what technique you like as you go along the way. One thing that I do like to do is I like to match at least one color glitter with one opaque dye or powder over it, because I feel like it gives the cup depth. Next, I'm going to take my pearl color mica and just again thread it over all of the colors just to give it some more contrast. With the chunky glitter, I'm going to apply with my hand so I can have a little bit more control of where it is applied. And now I'm just going to rub over some of the shards from Backfist Customs to give it a little bit more detail. And after I've applied all of my micas, dyes, and glitter, I'm going to let my cup spin for 8 hours and my project is finished. So thank you for watching. Like the video if it was helpful, subscribe to my channel for more tutorials, and until next time, thanks guys.